Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are going to have another look at the plugin Dehancer today. We're going to move on a little bit from the last video where we just showed some of the film profiles that you can use, and we're going to look at some other aspects of Dehancer and how you can manipulate your image to create the sort of look that you want. So let's jump in. Okay, so here we have Davinchi Resolve. I'm in the color tab. I've got some nodes here, 5 nodes, and we're going to have a look at this image here. Got George here who plays a Russian interrogator in the film An Ordinary Guy. He did an awesome job actually. First time I've done any acting, and he was brilliant in that. Anyway, that aside, we're just going to deactivate that node there. And what we've done is we've got our first node here, and it's got the Rec 709 on. It was shot in log on a Sony. Our image looks reasonably well balanced. If you watched the previous video, you would have seen obviously this image I used. Anyway, we're going to come across the last node. We've got nothing on these nodes at the moment. If we make any changes to these, it will affect our last node because these are running left to right. These are serial nodes. Let's come on across the last node. I'm just going to activate that node, and as you can see, there's something going on there, isn't there? That's with it turned off and that with it turned on. Anyway, if you come across to Dehancer, which is the plugin that we've dropped onto here, you'll see that I have some things enabled. So if I go to my film profile here, you can see that that is enabled. If I turn it off, I've got this Kodak Aero color on here. What we're going to do, we're going to look at ways that we can manipulate this image to create a potential look that you may want using some of the sliders. First of all, we're going to start off the top here with the input, and you've got an exposure compensation slider here. Now you can drag in here, or you can hover your mouse across here and you can drag it that way. That tends to do it in smaller increments. Anyway, let's come across this. Let's reset it. So we've got an image there. Obviously it's a little bit dark, so I've just kind of compensate for some of that exposure a little bit there. Okay, so that is the exposure compensation, which you can obviously bring it down or you can bring it up. Right, we've got our the next one down is temperature compensation. This is where we can make the image warmer or cooler. It's pretty much does the same job as your in your color primary wheels here, your temperature control. So what we're going to do is we're going to come across this. If I pull it to the right, it makes it warmer. And if you look at your scopes, if you're new to scopes or wonder what this means, it just shows how those images are being presented on screens. If I look at this scope here, come back to my color wheel, you can see you've got reds, greens, yellows, blues, pinks, purples, to blues, that sort of thing. If you look at your color wheel, see where that's dragging towards. So that's dragging more towards here, towards warmer colors. If I go back to my temperature control and pull it back the other way, as you can see, the scope comes down here, and that's dragging more towards the blues, which are the cooler temperatures. Anyway, we're gonna give this more of a cooler, colder feel. Yeah, because I'm gonna keep it reasonably unsaturated in terms of its look. Do that, it feels more saturated. So I'm gonna just bring it down a touch. Okay. If you want to see before and after, or just see how things, whether you're happy with how things are rolling, you can obviously turn off and on your node. Okay, so we've done our exposure, we've done our temperature. We got your tint compensation here, which again, you can see that's to do with either dragging more towards the upper right or the bottom left. So it comes up here in terms of color wheel or down here. And I'm going to, again, going to bring that down just a slight bit. Put a little bit of green in there. That's our exposure, our temperature, and our tint. So there are 3 ways that we can manipulate that image, and that's before and that's after. So that's looking quite cool already. Okay, so another way that we can manipulate the color of the image is if I come down to the color heads. So if I come down to the color heads here, this is where we can make smaller changes in terms of colors, because what we've done there with these ones, we've made changes to the whole of the image and all the colors within the footage itself. If I come down to the color head, if I enable this, you can see a gang checkbox there. Basically, what that means is that these will move together, okay, like so. But we're not gonna do that. I'm just going to reset all those. We want to change these as separate. So as you can see, it's very simple: yellow to blue, magenta green, cyan red. Yeah. So if I pull that one there, it pulls it over to the blue and over to the yellow. With the second one, over to the green, over to the magenta, and finally, you've got the cyan and red, haven't you? So there's a cyan there, and that's the red there. Okay, so I'm just going to reset all those, and I'm gonna just put a tiny bit of blue in there. Okay, you might not even see the difference, little subtle difference there, just so you can see it. I'm going to bring it up to about 2 and enable it. And there you can see how the shadows a little bit as well, much below. So, okay, I'm gonna leave that at that. Okay, so these are waking up changes. To manipulate the shadows, the midtones, and the highlights, you've got your sliders here. So I want to manipulate the sliders. Oh, sorry, the shadows. Here you go. That goes warmer, and that goes cooler. In terms of your shadows, midtones, okay, warmer or cooler, and you can see how it affects just part of the image. So your highlights here, really, so that there's not much highlights in terms of the image there to see. Let's go back to the shadows. So that all the darker areas, that's changing there. And again, I'm gonna bring that down just a little bit. So that's with it not on, that's with it on. And you can see now how much cooler in terms of the color that image is. Yeah, much warmer there in the original Rec 709. And this brings it down and makes it a little bit more sinister, I feel, in terms of the look. One more bit that I'm going to show you today, and that is the vignette slider. So the great thing within Dehancer is the fact they have these sliders. It makes it much more easier to manipulate stuff, and obviously you can just reset those. So we're going to go with vignette. I'm going to enable that, and straight away you can see that it puts on a vignette. But how do you know how that vignette is set? Well, if I go into mask mode, this is where the center of where the vignette is. And we can make that change the aspect ratio like so, and we can feather it less, but you won't see it on that particular mask mode. You can increase the size. So if we go to there, turn off mask mode, and just enable, disable, you can see just in the edges. So when I talk about the center part of the vignette, what I mean by that is, let's bring that, down to there. Imagine, so the feather, imagine this is the center part. From this area here, things are obviously getting darker as we move to there and lighter as we move in this direction. So you imagine that this is almost like the center port. So let's say, for example, where the vignette gets darker, this is the darker bit and this is the lighter bit. So it just moves across in terms of those particular aspects. Anyway, I'm just going to, not that one. I'm just going to change my aspect ratio to here, like so. Turn off the mask, and You can work with the exposure here. Now, obviously, if I pull that right up, you can see it's actually darker here and lighter here because I've sort of more or less inverted the vignette. Okay, I'm going to just take it to there, working my size there. Can't see much difference on that, can we? And disabled and enabled. So that's quite subtle. But what you're trying to do with the vignette, you're trying to pull the eye towards the main character. And those are just a few bits of how you can manipulate your image once you've decided upon your film profile that you're going to use. So again, if I disable that, you can see where we've gone from to. Anyway, hopefully that was useful. We will cover some more aspects of how you can use Dehancer in some future videos. And you can actually use Dehancer. They have an app that you can use in terms of any footage that you might want to edit on your phone. And we'll probably cover that in future videos. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.